My name is Vernessa Chappelle, and I serve in the children's ministry. I work in the nursery with the little ones, very little ones. And I'm actually I do the hospitality with serving and getting, things ready for different events.
My name is Curtis Chappelle. I'm actually a deacon here on staff at Calvary Chapel. I actually served in the worship team, and I'm currently an active deacon. And I basically just help and do whatever is needed.
I was a party animal. I partied all week. On Wednesday, we had happy hour, went to happy hour. Thursday, they had tie night. I was there. Friday, that's the time to party for the weekend. And Saturday, I was just a party animal. And I just thank God for delivering me from out of that life, because it was no good for, me raising my boys. It was no good for them to see that. So he did a thing in me to take me out of that life. So.
All right, so I came to Christ when I was 15. So this is a very interesting story. So I was a sophomore in high school, and my mom had not too long transitioned to working first shift. She's a nurse, right? So there was a woman that worked with her who was asking and trying to witness to my mom, right? But my mom was like, at the time, not feeling it, right? Even though she grew up in the church too. But she, for whatever reason, she was like, she met me because I used to go to the hospital to get a ride home from school. She would come down the escalator with my mom, and then she was like, oh, this your son? So she met me, right? So then after that, she was like, can I take your son to church on Sunday, right?
I believed in Christ around 6th grade. I accepted Christ in my life, but then I backslid. With my mom and dad, they didn't set a foundation because it was like they fought all the time. My dad would come home, in the middle of the night and just wreak havoc on the whole household. So when I married my first husband, he never supported me in anything. So that's really kind of what drove me to, a destructive life.
But just one day I'm sitting there and he's, talking about Christ. And like, I've been a nerd, I'm still a nerd. So I think logically about everything, right? So he's talking and I'm like, okay, so I need Christ in order to not go to hell. That's how it kind of clicked in my head, right? And I'm like, okay, so I need him. Okay, so I'm surrendering because I don't want to go there, right? So that's kind of how I came to Christ. And then they started discipling me. And then slowly I understood more about the relationship part more than just the transaction, you know what I mean? So that was kind of my foundation. But as, of course, I stopped going to that church, and I wasn't really going to another church, so I wasn't being discipled anymore, so I kind of fell back into what I was doing. I can honestly say I don't think I went at that point up until even graduating high school. I didn't go all the way away, but I wasn't really in church like I was before, so then I go off to college. Because of the independence, I kind of went further away, and that was the reason why I never graduated. So, partying too much, right? Because there's some of everything to do, right?
After I was with my first husband, he was not in the church or anything, or didn't know the Lord, so I just was still raising myself, and I got married at 17 with him, so I was still a child, and I had my first son at 18. So it was just a lot of different elements in my life that really, really carried me a different way than most people. So I still deal with a lot of that trauma.
After I left school, I was trying to live in South Carolina, so further away. I had a girlfriend, we were living together. So yeah, I was really kind of doing my own thing, really, for real. So, well, to shorten the story, I left school and stayed here for about 2.5, 3 years, and just wasn't working out, only had odd jobs. So I moved back to Jersey for a year. My mom said, come home, start over, get a job, save up your money, and then go back if you want to, right? She was like, no bills, no nothing, you just save your money. So I was like, she was trying to get me to do that for 2 years. And then I finally was like, got fed up. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. So went home, stayed home for a year. And ironically, I had a girlfriend at the time, the one I was living with, but I never met another person while I was in Jersey. So when I came back to South Carolina after the year, I moved out from my girlfriend, and the person that I knew in Jersey came down, and that was ultimately the first person I married. So, but galore red flags, should have never married her, right? But lesson learned, and just continue to just be more and more miserable. Like I just was not happy. I just was miserable, right?
That's what brought on all of the partying. So, yeah. But once I came back to the Lord, it was at the church that me and Kurt got married in. Yeah, in 2009, I received him. Well, I know that the Lord was dealing with me. He was dealing with me so much with different things going on in my life. And one of the nights that I was in the club, I couldn't stay. It was like something was pricking my heart, and I had to leave. I had just got there, but I left right away because I know that he was doing something in me. And I never went back after that. I just felt like he was just telling me that this is not a life for me. This is not what he wants from me. So that's why I just was obedient, got up, left, and I started to seek him.
So I couldn't sleep that night, like no sleep for real, like all night. And so the Spirit just said, get up, right? So I got up, right? And I was like, what am I gonna do? So he was like, get dressed, like going to work. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to be at work for like 2 hours, right? So he was like, go to work. So I'm putting my clothes on and I'm leaving, and my wife is like, why are you leaving so early? I'm like, yeah, I know it's a little early, but I'm gonna head out. So I got in the car, I started driving. I didn't even know where I was going because it was too early to even go to work, right? So I'm just driving around for about 10 minutes and then just like thinking about everything at that moment. And then literally, like it was like, I don't know, I had like a breakdown. So I just start bawling like hard, so hard I couldn't even see to drive, right? So I just pulled over, and I'm downtown on Main Street at this point. I don't even know how I got there, right? So the Spirit said, call your mom.
When the Lord was calling me, he called me when I was at St. Paul. Me and Kurt, we met each other in 2001. That's how I got to know that place. And that's where I received the Lord again. I truly let him in my heart at that church. But then I backslid again.
Right, and I'm like, it's like 4:15. My mom is not up at this time. So I was like, okay. So I just get out the car and I go to the payphone and I call Mom. And she picked up on the second ring, which is like, and it was and sounded like she'd been up, right? So, and I'm like, you're up, Mom? She was like, yeah, Kurt, I'm good. Like, what's going on? And so real calm, she's like, what's going on? And then I just start pouring out everything that's been happening and just crying, bawling hard. And I'm looking around like I'm the only person on the street, but I'm like, I don't want nobody to see me, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, just everything's coming out. And Mom is like quiet. She's just like, right? So I'm like, I don't know what to do, Mom. Like, you know, I come to that point in the conversation. So she goes, Curtis, you know what's happening right now, right? And I'm like, what? Right? Still bawling. She was like, the Lord is calling you and he wants you. He said, but you have to make a decision right now. She said, you can either go down the path you're continuing to go, which will lead to destruction, which means your life, or you can turn the other way and receive him.
I just started seeing him really work in me and changing me so that I can be a better mom, more supportive mom. So I just just really leaned into what he was trying to do in me. So,
what are you gonna do? And as soon as she said that, I immediately, like, the Spirit just stopped me from crying, right? And I was like, and I knew exactly what she meant. I said, I need Jesus. So she was like, okay. And I was like, well, I didn't say it before, but I was like, Mom, why you sound like you've been up for a minute? She said, the Lord woke me up and told me to pray for this moment. I didn't know you were gonna call, but I could feel something was not right. And he didn't tell me, but I just out of obedience got up and started praying. So he prepared me for this call. And I was like, oh, okay. So we prayed, and then I just surrendered again, really. And so she said, this time, Curtis, it has to be for real. And I was like, I understand. So she was like, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. She said, but this time it has to be for real. And I was like, okay. And I understood exactly what she meant. And so we prayed and talked a little bit more, and then I hung up the phone, and literally, I felt like 10,000 pounds on my shoulders was gone.
I did that repetitively all the time, backslide. So I didn't have a community. I didn't have a community to hold me accountable or just sow into me. But this church has done that. I have people calling me out of the blue just when they feel me in their spirit. So I just really, I'm grateful for that.
At St. Paul was where I rededicated my life to Christ, and I was 32 at that time. So I had the same cycle. I'm sitting there, and literally the Lord gave me a vision. And what it was Christ. I saw him, and I knelt at his feet, right? So I kneeled down to worship him, and he grabbed me before I can get all the way down. And he picked me up and hugged me. So I was like, oh, and then I could hear someone saying that you are my friend. That's when I got the full understanding that not only is he Lord and King of Kings, but he's my friend. And he wants that level of relationship. So that was like an awesome revelation for me. And that literally is like what I stand on to this day. So, and when I get the opportunity to witness, that's what I tell people is like the Lord wants a relationship with you, but not what you're thinking, but he wants a deep, intimate, personal relationship, like to know you, for you to know him, really. Not, he already knows you, but for you to know him, like deeply. That is why, like when Pastor started talking about being known, like that clicked with me immediately, like yes, yes, yes. And I thank God they gave me that revelation and that understanding, right? And so that took me to a deeper level of relationship with him. So it's not just about what I need to do, it's more about what he needs to do in me.